My name is Cashin Voss. 32. A nobody by their standards. I wasn't born with legacy shares or a name that made bankers stand. I was the plus one to a woman whose last name came with built-in authority, Mercer. They didn't marry me. They tolerated me. That night, I stood at the edge of the ballroom floor, watching my wife smile under crystal chandeliers, her hand curled around a champagne flute like it was born there. I wore the same black tux as every other man in the room, but mine felt tighter, like it knew I didn't belong. Julian Mercer raised his glass. To family. And to those who married well. Laughter. Even polite claps. My knuckles whitened around my glass. They didn't know. Not yet. You're not one of us, Elena had whispered once, leaning in at a family brunch. And deep down, even you know it. I did know it. But I also knew something else, something that made the ground they stood on a little less solid. Behind me, the doors opened. A cold draft swept through. AMC's head counsel, Nolan Graves, walked in, shoulders tight, eyes scanning. He nodded at me once. Small. Precise. Enough. I slipped out before the applause died. The hallway outside was quiet. I moved past portraits of past CEOs. Men with cold eyes and fake smiles. My phone buzzed once. AMC Trust Transfer finalized. Secure Vault Code, active. Access level, Cashin Voss, primary holder. They thought I married in for status. They never thought I'd buy the floor beneath their feet. Power isn't inherited, I muttered under my breath. It's taken. Quietly. Back inside, Elena clicked her heels across the floor like gunshots. Cashin, she sang, we're starting the toast round. You'll pour, won't you? I walked toward her. Of course, I said, voice even. Wouldn't miss it for the world. She smiled. But there was that flicker. That 1 second delay where her eyes narrowed, searching. AMC was already mine. Every asset. Every vote. Every shadow deal her father had buried. She just didn't know it yet. I handed her the first glass. To a future we can't escape. Her fingers trembled. Later that night, in the garage beneath the ballroom, a car alarm screamed once, then went dead. A valet stood frozen, holding the keys to Julian's Tesla. Inside the glove compartment, buried under insurance forms, was a manila envelope marked Confidential, Mercer Offshore Holdings, Transfer Memorandum. Julian's voice echoed from the top of the stairs. Cashin. You forget something? I turned. He descended like a politician, smiling, loud, rehearsed. I think you and I need a chat, he said. My pulse ticked faster. Sure, I said, slow. Let's talk. The security lights flickered. Once. Twice. Julian stepped closer, voice dropping. What game are you playing? He was too close now. I smiled, calm. The one you forgot to read the rules for. From behind, Nolan emerged from the shadows. Julian's eyes shifted. Who the hell is that? Nolan spoke, flat, AMC compliance requires we speak privately. About the forged signatures. And your wife's proxy abuse. Julian's face lost all color. You came here with nothing, he hissed, voice low. I leaned in. And yet here I am, holding everything you thought was yours. He grabbed my lapel, too fast. Too loud. Too public. A flashbulb popped. Phones were out. Whispers. A Mercer man, breaking. Julian froze. Eyes darting. Cameras blinking red. Behind me, Nolan murmured, we just made our case stronger. I straightened my jacket, stepped back. Julian stood still, breathing hard. Hands curled. Then he looked up. You think you've won? My voice was steady. No. I've only opened the first door. And behind it, the truth is already bleeding through. The first sign something was wrong came at 2:13 a.m. My phone lit up on the nightstand. No ring. Just a silent push notification. AMC Internal Security, Unauthorized Access Flagged, Level 3. I sat up. Heart already sprinting. The room was dark. Quiet, except for the soft hum of the AC. Elena slept beside me, motionless, curled under the duvet like the chaos outside didn't touch her. Another notification blinked. New device detected. Julian Mercer credential attempted at 2 hours 12 minutes and 7 seconds. Julian was digging. Or worse, someone else was. I slipped out of bed without a sound. Floorboards creaked. I paused, then stepped lighter. The hallway was black. The old Mercer townhouse still smelled like imported wood and hidden agendas. Downstairs, I activated my firewall sync from the backup tablet. Lines of code flicked across the screen. Morgan's encryption was holding, for now. But one thing was clear. The game had changed. And someone inside was moving faster than we predicted. In the kitchen, I poured coffee, even though my hands shook. I remembered something my father once told me, back when all I had was debt and a beat-up Camry. The difference between prey and predator isn't speed, it's who blinks first. I wasn't blinking tonight. A crash upstairs. Glass? I sprinted back up. The bedroom door was ajar. Too far. I'd only left it slightly cracked. Elena? I whispered. No answer. Then, her scream. I lunged through the door. Elena stood by the open window, hair flying, barefoot. Someone was here, she cried. I saw a shadow, just outside. I scanned the room. Drapes fluttering. No footprints. Just glass on the sill, tiny shards, like from a surveillance bug or a snap device. They're watching us, I muttered. Not a metaphor. Not paranoia. Reality. By 6 a.m., I was in Morgan's underground office. A server room disguised as a wine cellar. Concrete walls. No Wi-Fi. EMF blocking grid active. He didn't look up as I entered. Just slid a folder across the metal table. Mercer accounts. Offshore. Cayman. Seychelles. 2 layers of shell. I opened it. Eyes scanning transaction codes. You'll need these if you want to bring them down publicly, he added. But if you use them wrong, they'll bury you in countersuits and evidence tampering claims. Noted, I said, voice low. Morgan finally looked at me. They've accelerated. I intercepted 3 emails from Julian to a private investigation firm in Chicago. He's looking into your life before Elena. Deep. I don't have skeletons. You do. Just not the kind that bleed. Paper ones. Loans. Expired LLCs. A dead lawsuit from 2014 that you beat on a technicality. Everyone has dirt, I said. True. But you're the only one they think can steal the family name. 9:42 a.m. Mercer Tower. I walked into the atrium and everything stopped. Every head turned. The receptionist, Lauren, blinked twice, then picked up the phone. Voice low, urgent. Someone pressed the emergency fire door open. Security. Not subtle. I took the elevator anyway. 24th floor. Legal and compliance. The elevator dinged open into silence. Too quiet. Then I saw her. Clara Ean. The Mercer family's in-house attorney. Razor sharp. Dressed in navy. Eyes like obsidian. She stepped toward me, heels clicking. We need to talk, she said. Doesn't everyone, I replied. She didn't smile. I have a subpoena, she said flatly. Filed through state court. Julian's requesting a forensic audit of your marriage agreement and how you obtained board-level voting privileges. That's a civil maneuver. It won't hold. No. But it gives him 72 hours to freeze you. I stepped closer. Funny. You seem awfully calm for someone about to be exposed. Her jaw twitched. I'm trying to help you. If I wanted you gone, you'd already be cuffed. I don't believe in mercy deals, I said. Especially not from Mercer attorneys. I left before she could answer. Back in the elevator, I let the silence settle around me. Then I spoke, quiet but clear. You can't burn someone who already walked through fire. That night, I returned to the townhouse alone. Elena had gone to visit her mother. She hadn't called. I poured a drink, stood in front of the window where the shadow had appeared. Wind brushed the curtains. A faint flicker outside. Movement. I turned off the lights. Waited. 30 seconds later, a flash. Someone was taking photos. From across the street. Behind the tinted glass of a black SUV. I reached for my burner phone. Morgan answered on the second ring. They're not watching you, he said. Pause. They're watching who you're meeting. My mouth went dry. I turned slowly. And saw it. A red laser, pulsing faintly. On the living room wall. Then it moved. Upward. To my chest. The laser dot didn't move. I didn't breathe. I counted backward from 5, then dropped, hard, shoulder hitting the floor just as the window cracked behind me. A silenced round thudded into the drywall where my chest had been. No more time. I rolled toward the couch, yanked the burner phone, hit redial. Morgan, I hissed. I'm compromised. He didn't ask questions. Leave the house. Now. I was already moving. Shoes. Coat. USB. I grabbed the Mercer file from under the floorboard vent. Shoved it inside my jacket. My lungs were burning. Windows blackened. No lights. Another shot, this time lower, through the cabinet. They weren't trying to kill. Not yet. They were testing. Cornering. I moved toward the back door, heart hammering so loud I could hear it in my ears. The wood creaked under my weight. Just one breath too loud, one shadow too slow, and I was dead. Outside. Rain sliced sideways. The street was empty. SUV gone. I made it 2 blocks before headlights caught me. I froze. But the car didn't stop. It passed. Civilian. Still breathing. Still alive. Morgan's safe house was buried in Tacoma's industrial district. No cameras. No Wi-Fi. Only one way in and out. He opened the door before I knocked. You're late. I was busy not dying. He handed me a towel, then turned back to the war room. The screens lit up with static. Who has the Mercer family on retainer for muscle? I asked. Morgan didn't look up. Blacklake. Private contractor. Not official. Very expensive. Mostly used by real estate billionaires who want clean takeovers. Julian's cleaning house. No, Morgan said flat. He's setting fire to the evidence. I plugged in the USB. Mercer offshore routes, I said. Seychelles. Cayman. Hidden under a logistics shell named Apex Fold. Morgan frowned. That's not a logistics firm. What is it then? Wait. Clicking. Typing. Silence. Then. It's a dummy node. What? There's nothing on Apex Fold. It's not just a shell, it's a black hole. It exists only to move money, not report it. No employees. No product. No tax filings. I stood still. They're not laundering. They're disappearing money. And just like that, it shifted. This wasn't about stealing shares or discrediting me. This was about hiding billions. My voice was hoarse. Who controls Apex Fold? Morgan clicked. No one. It's blank. Pause. Unless. He stopped. Unless what? I snapped. There's only one way a blank entity like this stays clean, if someone has diplomatic shielding. Which means. He trailed off. I stared. This goes beyond Julian. Morgan nodded. Clarine, I said. You think she's behind it? She's a lawyer who never loses. She buried my prenup. She steered Julian's false subpoena. And she made partner at a firm that doesn't even have partners. Morgan was quiet. I'll dig, he finally said. But if Clara's involved, we need something bigger than files. We need a statement, I said. On record. From someone they trust. Cut scene. Ballroom. Next day. Same chandeliers. Different tension. Julian walked in, flanked by security. Elena at his arm. The press were out front. AMC Quarterly Gala. Cameras. Posing. Laughter. I was already inside. I had 1 hour. Morgan's voice echoed in my earbud. You've got 54 minutes before we're traced. Plenty. I moved through the guests like a ghost. My tux blended. My face didn't. Clara spotted me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Cash in. I thought you weren't invited. Wasn't, I said. But neither was the FBI. Her expression cracked. She pulled me aside, fast. What the hell are you doing? Watching your empire fall. You don't understand what you're playing with. No, I said, leaning in. I understand it better than you do. Because I wasn't born with power. I had to watch it, learn it, steal it. She exhaled through her teeth. You're making a mistake. Not yet, I whispered. Then I handed her a phone. On the screen, video footage. Her voice. Her office. Her laughing with a diplomat. Talking numbers. Talking transfers. Talking cover. Clara stared. You bugged me. I smiled. You bugged me first. The air shifted. She turned slowly. Elena's not innocent, she said softly. What? She's the one who sent Apex Fold to Cayman. Not Julian. Not me. My stomach dropped. She signed over your power of attorney last year. Used your digital cert. You were traveling. The room blurred. Morgan's voice hissed through my ear. Get out. I can't, I whispered. Clara's eyes darkened. She played both sides. She's watching us right now. And then. A hand on my shoulder. Warm. Familiar. Elena, I said without turning. Her voice behind me was a whisper. You should have left when you had the chance. The moment Elena's hand touched my shoulder, everything stopped. The air around us seemed to freeze, and I could almost hear the room holding its breath. I had barely begun to process what she had just whispered when she spun me around. You should have left when you had the chance, she said, her voice low, with a venom that felt personal. Her grip tightened, and for a fleeting moment, I wondered if it would be the last touch I'd ever feel from her. It wasn't her usual cold indifference. It was something much sharper, something personal. My instincts screamed that this wasn't just about business anymore. I took a step back. What do you mean? Elena's eyes darkened. You think this is about you? You're just a pawn in a much bigger game, cash in. She leaned in close. You have no idea who you're really dealing with. I wanted to push her away, but there was a quiet threat in her tone that held me in place. A soft cough broke the tension, and I turned to see Julian standing behind me. His presence was an anchor, a constant reminder that this was still his party, his world. He wore the smile of a man who thought he controlled everything in the room. But I saw it, the tremor in his hands, the slight twitch in his jaw. He was unraveling. "Everything okay, Cashin?" Julian's voice was syrupy, but I could hear the edge underneath. I nodded, eyes still locked on Elena, who was now watching Julian carefully. It was as if a silent conversation was happening between them, one I wasn't invited to. "Fine," I said, forcing a smile. "Just a little misunderstanding." Julian's smile faltered for just a second. He stepped forward, breaking the invisible line between us. "We should talk. Now." I didn't move. "Here?" He didn't flinch. "Now." I followed him to a quieter corner of the ballroom. The lights were softer here, the music distant. Julian turned to face me, the weight of his gaze settling heavy in the pit of my stomach. "You're making this personal, Cashin," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "This isn't just about your mother's inheritance anymore. This is about survival." I raised an eyebrow. "Survival?" Julian's lip curled. "You're messing with things you don't understand. Elena was just trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I scoffed. "By lying to me? By trying to shut me out of everything? You still don't get it, do you?" His voice dropped. "This isn't just about your mother's estate, or you being a part of the family. This is about power, Cashin. It's about who controls the board. And right now, we're all just pieces in a game you can't even see." I felt the weight of his words settle over me like a cold fog. I knew what he meant. Elena, Julian, my mother, they'd been pulling the strings for years, manipulating the narrative, keeping me in the dark. But what Julian didn't realize was that I wasn't the same person who had once sat quietly in their shadow. I wasn't their pawn anymore. "I've been watching," I said, voice steady despite the storm brewing in my chest. "I know what you've been doing. You've been laundering money through Apex Fold. And you've been hiding it under the guise of this little family game you've created. But I'm not buying it anymore." For a brief moment, Julian's eyes flashed with panic. Then, just as quickly, he masked it with that trademark smirk. "You think you're the first person to try and play this game? You're a kid, Cashin. You've been playing with fire, and now it's burning you alive." I stepped closer, the distance between us closing rapidly. "I'm done being the kid. I'm done with you, Elena, and your games. If you want to fight, you've got one. But this time, I'm not the one who's going to lose." The music from the ballroom swelled, the crescendo of strings filling the silence between us. Julian stared at me, and for the first time, I saw something flicker behind his eyes, fear. And then, the sound of a phone ringing. Julian's phone. He reached for it with a tremor in his hand. "I need to take this," he said, stepping away from me. I watched him for a moment, the weight of the entire conversation sinking in. Julian had always thought he was untouchable. But now, he was scared. He was cornered. Cut to a dingy parking lot. I leaned against my car, waiting. The air smelled of gasoline and wet concrete. The city buzzed in the distance, but here, there was only silence. The phone rang again, shattering the quiet. "Morgan." "Talk to me," I said, answering. "Cashin, we've got a problem." My heart skipped a beat. "What happened?" "There's a leak," he said, his voice urgent. "Someone tipped off the feds. We've got a team heading to the Mercer building, and it's coming down hard." A sick realization hit me. Someone had been watching. "I need to get to the files," I said quickly, my pulse quickening. "Where are they?" "Not at the building. But there's a safe house, 20 miles outside the city. Elena's been using it as a fallback point. I think she's there now. Go. Now." Before I could respond, the line went dead. I didn't waste time. The engine roared to life, and I was already peeling out of the lot before the tires even hit the street. The safe house was hidden behind an unassuming row of townhouses. I parked a block away, my fingers running over the Glock in my waistband. The cold night air bit at my skin as I walked toward the front door, every shadow feeling like a threat. I moved carefully, but my heart was racing. I had no idea who I was about to face inside. But there was one thing I knew for sure, it wasn't just about me anymore. The Mercer game had reached a new level. And this time, I wasn't playing by their rules. I pushed the door open, stepping inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. And then, a voice, Elena's voice, came from behind me. "You should have never come here, Cashin." The sound of Elena's voice sent a chill straight to my bones. For a split second, I stood frozen, the weight of her words sinking in like a stone in water. "You should have never come here, Cashin." I turned slowly, careful not to show the panic creeping up on me. She was standing by the kitchen counter, her face cast in shadow, but I could see the tension in her posture. She wasn't here for a friendly chat. "You're not fooling me," I said, keeping my voice steady. "This isn't about protecting me anymore, Elena. You've been lying to me. Hiding things. And I'm done being in the dark." She smiled, but it wasn't kind. "You think you're in control now? That you can just waltz in and take what's mine?" Her eyes burned with something close to rage, but there was also something else, something cold and calculating. I had no idea how deep this went, but one thing was clear, Elena wasn't just a bystander in this mess. She was involved. She was playing a game far bigger than I could have imagined. "You've been living under my roof all this time, Cashin, and you still don't understand how things work." Her words were clipped, precise. She took a step closer, her heels clicking sharply on the hardwood floor. "The world isn't as simple as you think. You think you can just walk in here and take my power, but you don't even know what you're up against." My heart pounded in my chest. There it was. The threat, the knowledge that she knew more than I did, and she wasn't afraid to let me know. "You think you can scare me, Elena?" I took a step forward, meeting her gaze. "I'm not some kid anymore. I'm not afraid of you." A flicker of something, uncertainty, crossed her face before she hit it again. She crossed her arms. "It's not about being afraid. It's about survival. And you're not prepared for what's coming." I didn't have time to question what she meant. My phone buzzed in my pocket, the vibration cutting through the tension like a blade. I pulled it out and saw a message from Morgan. "They're onto us. The deal's about to go public." My pulse quickened. Elena's eyes narrowed, sensing something had shifted. "What's that?" she asked, her voice a low hiss. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, my fingers brushing the cold metal. "Nothing," I lied, but she didn't buy it. I could see it in her eyes. She knew something was about to happen, something big. And that was when it hit me. The leak. The one that had been gnawing at me. It wasn't just about the files anymore. It wasn't about the company or the inheritance. Someone had been feeding information to the authorities, and now they were coming for us. I stepped back, trying to think through the fog of fear and anger. "You think this is just about money? About the company?" I asked, my voice low, dangerous. "You're wrong, Elena. It's about power. And it's not yours anymore." She tilted her head, studying me like I was some kind of puzzle. "You're right about one thing," she said, her tone almost mocking. "It's about power. But you've underestimated me." She stepped back, turning her back to me. "You've all underestimated me." Something about her words sent a chill running down my spine. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach, the sensation that I wasn't seeing the full picture. That I was missing something critical. Something that Elena knew and I didn't. I reached for the door. "I'm done," I said, my voice steely. "I'm taking the fight to the next level. Whatever you're planning, it's over." But as I opened the door, I heard Elena's voice one last time. "You're not the one pulling the strings, Cashin." But you will be soon enough. The door slammed behind me, and I found myself in the cold night air. The city was alive with sounds, but my mind was racing too fast to focus on anything else. I could hear the sirens in the distance. Was it them? Or was it just the chaos starting to bleed through the streets? My phone buzzed again, this time a call from Nolan. I answered immediately, knowing this wasn't going to be good. What's happening? I demanded. We've got a problem, Nolan's voice crackled through the line. The Mercer building is compromised. The feds are moving in. I didn't wait for him to explain further. I turned and started walking towards my car, my heart pounding with adrenaline. What about the files? I asked, keeping my pace steady, trying not to let the panic take hold. They're gone, Nolan said flatly. Elena's already moved them. They're in a safe location, but it's a dead drop. No way to trace them. And worse, someone's already breached the vault. I felt the blood drain from my face. The vault. That was the one place I thought was secure. The one place where everything was supposed to be safe. I got in the car and slammed the door shut. Who's doing this? Nolan didn't answer at first. When he did, his voice was heavy with something I couldn't place. You're not going to like it. Elena has allies in high places. You're fighting against more than just family now. I turned the key in the ignition, my hands shaking, my mind spinning. Who? I'm going to send you a name, Nolan said. But trust me, Cashin. It's bigger than you think. And you need to prepare yourself for what's coming. I drove faster, the city lights blurring by. I had no idea who I was up against, or who I could trust anymore. All I knew was this, whatever game Elena was playing, I was no longer a player. I was a target. And there was no turning back now. The storm had passed, but the silence that followed felt louder than the thunder. I stood in the quiet aftermath, the walls of my office closing in. The truth was out, but it wasn't the clean, neat ending I had expected. It was jagged, messy, like everything else in my life. I looked down at the file in my hand. The one that had been hidden from me for so long. The one I had risked everything for. It was a collection of documents, contracts, and letters, but the most important thing wasn't the paperwork. It was the names of people I had trusted, people I had called family, people who had been behind the plot to bring me down. There was no more doubt. Elena wasn't just a puppet master. She was the architect of it all, pulling the strings in the shadows. She had been playing a long game, one that I'd been oblivious to until the very end. The door to my office creaked open. It was Nolan. He looked different today. Less like the ally I had come to rely on, more like a man carrying the weight of his own secrets. You should have let it go, Cashin, Nolan said, stepping into the room, his voice low and grim. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. My eyes were fixed on the documents, the final proof that everything I had built, the company, the relationships, the legacy, had been nothing but a chessboard for Elena's game. I finally turned to face him. How long, Nolan? How long were you going to keep the truth from me? He hesitated. A flicker of guilt flashed across his face before he hid it. It wasn't my place to tell you. I clenched my fists, anger rising up like a wave. You knew everything. You knew she was playing me, and you just stood there. How could you let this happen? He exhaled slowly. She had leverage, Cashin. You didn't know the full picture. There were things at stake far bigger than just you. Like what? I demanded. My entire life? My father's company? My name? No, he said quietly, his voice tight. The game was always bigger than that. I stared at him, trying to piece together the puzzle. Every moment, every step, had been carefully calculated by someone who knew how to manipulate the situation. It had all been a trap that I had walked straight into without even realizing it. The company, I said slowly. The money, the deals, it was never about them, was it? No, Nolan replied. It was about control. Elena wanted power. But she also wanted something more. She wanted your trust, your loyalty. That's how she could keep you in the dark for so long. I stood there, stunned. It wasn't just about business. It was personal. And that was the most dangerous part. You've been working with her this whole time, haven't you? I asked, the realization sinking in. You were never my ally. You were just another piece in her game. Nolan didn't deny it. I had to make my choice, cash in. I didn't want to be on the wrong side of this. But I couldn't watch you destroy everything, yourself included. The word stung more than I cared to admit. I had trusted Nolan. He was the one person I thought I could rely on. But now I saw that he, too, was a victim of Elena's manipulations. A victim of his own fear. I don't need anyone's help anymore, I said, my voice cold. I'm going to take her down. No more games. Nolan looked at me, his face hardening. If you go after her now, there's no coming back from it. You'll lose everything. The company, the connections, your reputation. You won't just be fighting her. You'll be fighting everyone who's ever been in her pocket. I took a deep breath, the weight of his words sinking in. But I knew what I had to do. The time for playing by the rules was over. Elena doesn't control me anymore, I said, my voice steady. I've seen the truth now. And I'm not afraid of what comes next. Nolan gave me one last, long look. His eyes were full of regret, but there was something else there, admiration. Then do it. But know this, Cashin, once you step into the ring with her, you won't be able to walk away clean. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked past him, my steps firm and purposeful. There was no more room for doubt. No more room for hesitation. I reached for the door, ready to face whatever came next. The storm outside had subsided, but I knew the real fight was just beginning. Elena thought she could control everything, my family, my company, my future. But she had underestimated me. She had underestimated the one thing I still had, my will to fight back. I stepped into the night, the cold air biting at my skin. I didn't look back. The world isn't kind to people who bend, I thought to myself. But it doesn't matter. I'll bend no more. The game was over.